My final Sobble error, Nintendo Switch Edition. Sorry, your console encountered for another Sobble error, but this time this is the last one because he decided to cancel my entire error on this channel. This is because he's done a heartbreaking online since late 2022. Anyways, the editor counted how many turned off CSOT, and in total there's 23 chances. And the bottom is set and will explode within a week. You already know when viewers watch 2 of the Sobble error videos. So good luck on this last error. It seems like you turned off your console once. Please don't ever turn it off again, ever since 2025. The timer will be reduced if you turn off 2 more. Again, if you simply turn off your console once again, the timer will be reduced. Can't even stop rolling the dice. Reminder that every startup after you turned off, it causes to become creepier because you turned off yet again. The timer is now down to 6 days. Now every turn off, the timer reduces. Please start turning off your console. You don't want ever to lose your Nintendo Switch forever if you keep going like this. The timer is reduced again to 5 days. You may have noticed that viewers may have seen darkening the background per turn off.
Viewers, well, you'll see about that.
You tried to attempt to jailbreak your console to modify everything you can. That action counted as a turn off. The timer is now at 4 days. Please don't try to get away from my error because it is currently strong. I'm now starting to feel frustrated for not following the rules, and it continues to get even creepier as you keep turning your console off. The timer is now at 3 days and 12 hours, or half week. You're about to reach halfway point. Turn your console off a few more times. Then something will happen. The timer is now set to 3 days.
It sounded like a Mac operating system.
Now you seriously disobeying my orders and continuing to become more angry. I'm not kidding about this. The timer is now dropped to 2 days and 12 hours. If you turn off your Nintendo Switch one more time, then I'll become evil. This is no joke. The timer is now down to 48 hours, or 2 days. I swear that I would not do this if I were you. You now have turned off your console 9 times. Actually, you did 10 because you did an action before, and now you've made it to my evil mode. The timer is now going down to 40 hours. Only 13 chances left.
I guess I'm going to block this television.
Blocking this television also counts as they turn off. I know the editor had lack of ideas for the rest of the action, so I guess he had to move on. Anyways, the timer is now down to 32 hours. Now you have reached the halfway point. Well, over at this point. Technically you would get as far as you can until you run out of chances and lose your console forever. The timer is now 24 hours, or a full day.
Go!
Are you trying to make me very furious? You need to stop turning off your Nintendo Switch, otherwise you'll be having more problems if you keep going. The timer is now 18 hours.
It looks like you now have 9 chances left. And yet you still not following the rules what I said. Without notice I gave you, I am now scary mode. The timer is now 12 hours. Leave this console alone. It always happens when you keep turning off your console. But the editor's note says, put one green screen Kirby sprite walking animation. Okay, this is pretty stupid idea. Anyway, the timer now goes down to 8 hours. Specifically, the happy years can turn pretty bad. Besides that can take long. You would have thought that it goes to the point where you could reach to the end. And also, the editor will never see this community ever again, and never going to be this community forever. As always, the timer is now 6 hours. I'm now getting a lot more furious because you are still continuing to power off your Nintendo Switch. Yet you are starting to reach to the end of the line. Now I'm devil mode and the timer is down to 4 hours. Please, leave this console alone now, or you'll face consequences. Look at this. Only 5 chances left. You have turned off your console 18 times. I asked you to not turn off your console, but you are still ignoring the main rules all the time. The timer is now reduced to 3 hours. Don't you ever wanted to end like this? If you turn off your console again, then I'll become EXE. Of course that the editor reached the limit of my modes, so he had to make them from scratch. It took like over 2 hours, which of course the time reduced. Glad that the editor has finished what he needed, and it's all history. Look at the background. It is now completely black. This is literally your fault for turning off your console. How could you be so cruel? If you didn't turn off your Nintendo Switch, none of this would have happened. I am now EXE and the timer is now reduced to 60 minutes, or a full hour. I kinda called rush hour to be honest. By the way, I forgot to tell you that you have only 3 chances left before you'll reach the end. Looks like we're out of startup screen variations. And now you're 2 steps closer of coding time, as listed on the main channel. The timer is reduced in half. Now the bomb will explode in 30 minutes. Hear that? That sound means that this is your final chance. Because if you turn off your console one more time, then I demand you to enter the code. This is absolutely and persistently serious. You get 2 choices. Either you wait 10 minutes to get your console back, or go for a code. The choice is yours.
Well, it seems like that I'm going to curse this action.
Alright. That's it. I had enough of you for turning off your console multiple times. You chose to go for code. So now it's time for a code. If you get this code right, you get your console back. But if it's wrong, you lose your console forever. Think fast, because you have 60 seconds to submit.
Sure this is the right code.
The code you entered is wrong. Here's the correct code. If you would have entered this code correctly, you could get your console back and play without any problems. But I'm afraid that it didn't happen at all. And now look at the bomb. It has been exploded like a potato. Now it is time to punish you. You refuse to listen to me about not turning off your console. That's it. You are now banned from using your Nintendo Switch forever. This means that you'll no longer be able to use your console. Since this is the last error, the editor will never make my error videos forever anymore. And since Roblox RNG Winter Update came out a few weeks ago, I guess I have to witness you with the Red Full Moon's ultimate ability, and then crash your console. Well, I guess that's all for this last error. End of log. Goodbye forever.